Hi everyone. We are still in the early stages of the metaverse, but already creators, researchers, and organizations around the world are working to unlock the potential of AR and VR to transform education, workforce training, healthcare, and the global economy. The metaverse will not be built by any one organization. It will be built by a range of companies, large and small, civil society, the public sector, and millions of individual creators. That's why we at Meta are so excited that Economist Impact will be organizing a series of global events this fall and into 2023 to explore the value of the metaverse. The first event is in Northeast Asia, where industry, government, and civil society leaders have in many ways already been leading the way to help build the metaverse. As we work together on the next computing platform, it is so important that we ensure open and transparent dialogue across sectors and across regions. Thank you to Economist Impact for helping us start this important dialogue.
Welcome to the discussion, Enabling Interconnected Virtual Worlds. This is the second webinar in a three-part series, Leading the Way into the Metaverse, Northeast Asia's Potential. I'm Naka Kondo, and I'm Manager of Policy and Insights at Economist Impact. Many thanks to Meta for generously sponsoring this fireside chat and virtual panel discussion. A few housekeeping items before we begin. It is best to use Google Chrome to view this webinar. You will also find a box with a selection of further reading on this topic available for download. I'm delighted to be joined today by Karen Makishima, member, House of Representatives, and former Minister of Digital. Karen has previously served as Minister of Digital Affairs, Minister in charge of Administrative Reform, Minister of State for Regulatory Reform, and Minister of State in charge of affairs concerning the cybersecurity strategic headquarters in the first Kishida cabinet. You'll find her full biography on the screen under this media player. Before I get into the discussion with Karen, I just wanted to remind you all of what we are here to discuss today. Now, over the past 2 to 3 decades, consumers have gone from chunky desktops to laptops to mobile phones, from dial-up phone lines to fiber optic broadband and high-speed wireless access technologies such as 5G, from text to photos to videos, you get the idea. This evolution has been driven by advances in computing power, network infrastructure, and the emergence of new communication standards and platforms. The advent of the metaverse is the next logical step in this evolution, with already millions of people interacting in 3D gaming worlds. Today, we will be discussing hardware, connectivity, and standards affecting the enablement of the virtual world. So Karen, welcome. This is a really exciting development we're seeing now, and especially, I think people are looking at Japan in terms of where the metaverse is heading. And do you believe Japan has great potential in the metaverse?
Yes, thank you very much for having me today, Naka and everyone. It's a great honor to be here today. I really enjoy the time we spend in the space of metaverse by myself. And also, as Minister for Digital, I attended some conferences that were held in metaverse space. And also I met Minister of MIT or MEEC, these ministers in the metaverse world. So I believe during this pandemic COVID-19 situation, we have many opportunities to meet the people all over the world. And also we attended the campaign rally that was held as metaverse space. And I've learned a lot from that experience. And as you know, in Japan, that was the tragedy that former prime minister was assassinated during the campaign. But we could feel safety at the metaverse campaign rally space. And everyone did enjoy listening to the candidates or the parliamentarian speeches in metaverse. And some have sent us messages. They were pregnant women or the mothers with small children, and they could not join the real campaign rallies, but they could enjoy the rallies at the metaverse space. So they can feel safety and they can enjoy the speeches in front of the parliamentarians or candidates. So I could feel the possibility that especially the diverse society, everyone can join the process of democracy or campaigns or elections. And also in Japan, we enjoy the lots of soft contents from manga, anime, to sumo or judo. So these soft contents that are so much exported in foreign countries would enjoy their merits in the metaverse space.
Thank you. No, it's amazing to hear that the metaverse is such an equalizer. I mean, Japan is an aging society. I mean, it's wonderful to hear these potentials. And of course, the soft content, I think there's an explosion of creativity for the individuals to express themselves in this 3D space. And I've heard that Japan has a wealth of creative talent in this space, which is also an exciting thing. And I mean, I guess, as you said, you've attended conferences, you're meeting new people for the first time in the metaverse. Mm-hmm. These are new things. So you're, interacting with people, you're having, real discussions. Mm-hmm. There's also commerce. The whole world exists, I guess, in the metaverse. And so, as you said, many people stand to benefit from metaverse, but I guess what challenges need to be overcome in terms of, I guess, hardware, connectivity, and standards that we need to set in order for the metaverse to be widely adopted. What do you think the challenges are in that kind of perspective?
Yes, as Naka has already mentioned, we meet people like metaverse first. We've met many people all over the world, like Zoom first. And after the borders are open, we finally meet the person in person. So when we meet the people metaverse first, when we shake hands at the metaverse space, I feel somehow warmth of the people. So that is the charming points of metaverse, I think. But I hope more people can enjoy these merits in the world, especially the people with challenges or some disabilities could enjoy more when they can use these headsets or the items. And I know the prices of smartphone is also getting higher, but I like to mention two disadvantages of metaverse. One is the cost, and the other one is the weight. And I enjoy visiting the gym at the metaverse because while I was a minister for digital, I could not go anywhere alone. So I should visit everywhere with my security persons. So I chose to visit gym at the metaverse space. So that is one of the challenges that I do in myself, but I hope the headset will be lighter that might be more easier for us to use every day with many hours. And also that will be the same for especially the people who have some challenges.
Mm-hmm. So I guess there will be many advances in terms of the headsets and the smartphones and kind of the physical access.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess some of the other barriers that we could think about in enticing people to kind of lowering the hurdle for people to join the metaverse is interoperability of these platforms. What are some of the barriers that need to be overcome to enable this interoperability of the platforms?
Actually, I have two avatars that will fit for two platforms. So the interoperability between platforms will be the agenda, I think. And I also attended the high school students' presentation about the metaverse policies. And even high school students can give us some ideas relating to the classrooms in the near future, for example. So if the cost is more reasonable and the more high school or more junior high school, more children can give us some innovative ideas on that. So when we assume that future, very, very in the future, I hope the interoperability between platforms or among platforms will be necessary for them to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. And you just mentioned policy, and of course, given who you are, I mean, I think it's apt that we would ask you what role should the government play in fostering solutions to these infrastructural challenges and developing an open and vibrant and competitive metaverse ecosystem. So, I mean, who will play the role of the police in the metaverse space?
Mm-hmm.
Who handles trademark registrations and patents? What do you think the role of the government is in getting this ecosystem set up and going?
Mm-hmm. And one committee in Japanese diet, I've heard the story of the victim of the stalker at the metaverse space. So we enjoy a sense of immersion of the metaverse. That is the charming point of the metaverse. But at the same time, sometimes for some people, it is difficult to understand the borders or the differences between the real world and the metaverse world. And usually we can feel safety at the metaverse space, but sometimes, even though they are avatars, some feel the fear by stalking. So what should we do to protect the users of metaverse? We don't have any police station beside us. But it's not about the Japanese police station or a Japanese police agency. We need to discuss these issues with other countries without any borders or without any borders among countries. So it should be the global issues. So it's not about the Japanese government only, but we need to talk with others and other players and stakeholders, and also with private sectors.
Mm-hmm. Is there, what are some of the greatest hopes and aspirations that you would have around the metaverse? For instance, in 3 to 5 years' time, where do you want to see metaverse in our society? How would we be interacting with the metaverse? What are some of the things that you think could become possible because of the metaverse? So basically what I'm asking is, what are some of the reasons why people should be looking forward to this new chapter in digital technology?
I think there will be two ways. One is going to be the twin cities or twin countries of the real world. And we can use these features to prevent disasters or to check the new technologies. And by checking or by testing metaverse first, and we can use this technology to the real world later. That will be one of the possibilities. And the other one will be the totally different from the world, the real world. So we can be anyone, and the gender might be different, or the hair color might be different, or you can enjoy some fashions that might be difficult for us to try at the real world. So we can use both features of the metaverse. So we can enjoy the immersive sense of the metaverse to use to realize the future faster, or we can enjoy the totally different world from the real world.
Thank you so much, Karen. I mean, I think we've really kind of explored with your unique perspective about some of the possibilities that you have been seeing of the metaverse in an aging society such as Japan. And in fact, you have already encountered many instances where you're seeing people in the metaverse for the first time. So there are many things. And of course, you have also highlighted some of the challenges to be overcome for a wider adoption of the metaverse. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you again to Meta for sponsoring the Fireside chat and the panel. Thank you, and please stay online to listen to our panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this panel discussion, Enabling Interconnected Virtual Worlds. I'm Charles Ross, Principal at Economist Impact, and it's a real pleasure to spend the next 45 minutes with you discussing this. This is the second in a three-part series on the metaverse or interconnected worlds, which we're doing for Meta. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you got an opportunity to listen to the first one as well. I'm really delighted to be joined by my three esteemed panelists. Monica Desai, who is VP Connectivity and Access Policy for Meta. At Meta, she focuses on issues involving infrastructure, spectrum, accessibility, net neutrality, online communications, and online video policy. Prior to joining Meta, she spent over a decade in senior positions at the Federal Communications Commission. We also have Kyung-Sin Park, who is a professor at Korea University Law School and co-founder and director of OpenNet Korea. From 2011 through to 2014, Mr. Park served as commissioner at the Korea Communications Standards Commission, a presidentially appointed body that regulates internet content. And finally, Chris Hung, who is Vice President and Director General of the Market Intelligence and Consulting Institute, Institution of Information Industry. Mr. Hung has 20 years of experience undertaking information technology research. His research areas include semiconductors, information systems, consumer electronics, and macroeconomics. He leads or has led several large-scale projects regarding semiconductor SoC, system on a chip, smart electronics, digital content, new online service platforms, industrial reforms, and telematics. So it's a real pleasure to have each of you with us. If you do want to find out a bit more about each of our panelists, their full biographies are on the screen underneath this media player. And before I get into the discussion, I've got lots of questions for my panelists today. Just want to remind each of you why we are discussing this today. Now, I hope some of you got the opportunity to listen to my colleague Naka and her fascinating fireside chat just preceding this discussion with Karen Makishima. And over the past 2 to 3 decades, they've discussed how consumers have gone from chunky desktops to laptops to mobile phones, from dial-up phone lines to fiber optic broadband and the high-speed wireless technologies such as 5G, which I'm connected with you here today, and from text to photos to videos. So we've seen this rapid transformation of advances, which have yielded great benefits for consumers. But in order to get to that point of getting benefits, we've also created significant challenges to overcome to ensure that benefits are distributed to as many people as possible. So we're really in such a situation here today as a new reality of interconnected virtual worlds emerges, commonly known as the metaverse. It may help to transform industries and yield significant economic benefits, which is what we discussed in the first part of this virtual event series. But now we want to focus on the challenges which need to be overcome in order to reap those benefits. And so challenges around hardware, connectivity, standards are all things we're going to be discussing on our panel here today. So let me bring in my panelists first, and I welcome to each and every one of you. And I just wanted to start off with a question for each of you to get to the bottom really of what those primary barriers you see are that we need to be able to overcome to leverage some of those benefits of the metaverse. And I might go to you first, Monica, if I might. Welcome to the discussion.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for putting this on. You know, I think for context, it's important to keep in mind that we're still at the equivalent of the dial-up internet stage of the metaverse. We're in such early ages. It's just as it was hard to imagine the internet of today back in the 90s, it's really hard to fully grasp what the metaverse will be a decade from now, even 5 years from now. After years of development and several generations of hardware, the technology that's needed to underpin the metaverse has matured, and it started to unlock so much of the metaverse's potential. But there's still a lot to be built and a lot of unknowns. And so, but at least for the first time, we think the foundation is there. And you know, there's the building for safety in the metaverse is important to Meta, and it'll require cooperation across apps, across different platforms, and people within experiences. And people won't want to spend time in the metaverse experience if they don't feel safe. But we're really at the very start of our journey, and you know, in the next 5 or 10 years, it will enable the next generation of social experiences. Like the internet, the metaverse will be a collective project that no company alone should build alone. We're building the metaverse in collaboration with a wide variety of experts, policymakers, and industry partners. We're starting this conversation early so that we can make sure that this work and its foundations are built on just solid foundations when it comes to things like privacy and safety. But there are going to be hard questions about technology that don't yet exist. And the only way we'll get this right is by working collaboratively to answer those questions together.
Excellent. Thank you, Monica. And I'm going to delve into that interoperability piece that you mentioned a little bit later in the discussion. KS, from your perspective, I'm keen to know your barriers, and also would you agree with Monica that we're sort of in the dial-up internet stage phase of the metaverse, if you were to compare it to some previous technological progressions? KS.
It's not just technological assessment that we are at the dial-up stage. Also legally, I believe we are at a dial-up stage. In South Korea's legislature, there are bills proposed already that attempt to punish activities of avatars at par with activities of real people in terms of sexual crimes. Of course, this is what Monica mentioned as safety, but we have to have a better understanding of safety. In a virtual world, the actions are actually communications. The physical actions should be distinguished from communications. And communication consists of speech, and regulation on communication causes friction with freedom of speech. So when we watch movies, characters kill one another, but we do not treat those killings as murders and try as a real murders and try to put blame or prosecute actors or film producers. It is, one difference between the movies and metaverse is that the characters killed or killing are bound up with our identities. But is that difference really sufficient to justify punishing virtual actions at par with real actions? There have been already movies modeled after real life events and real life characters, and featuring injuries or harms committed on those movie characters have not been treated or evaluated or punished as punished at par with real injuries or harms. There have been concerns from the civil society under this model of taken from resolution of UN Human Rights Council, basically that what is protected offline should be also protected online. Now, that doesn't mean that activities online should be punished the same as activities offline or real life events. If that is to happen, if you do not have clear understanding of what can be, what activities online can be punished at par or regulated at par with real life events, and what activities cannot, that will be a real legal hindrance. And that's why I said we are still at the dial-up stage, because I think that proposing these laws attempting to punish activities online the same as offline in terms of sexual crimes, I think that is a half-baked understanding of the Human Rights Council's resolution. I think there has to be a more nuanced approach depending on what area of law we are talking about, and that understanding has not really begun yet.
These are some really challenging issues and concepts that we need to grapple with. Government's policy needs to grapple with, and I guess with the added complexity is that we do need some consistency across markets and across regions for this to be able to for us to be able to implement this and apply it. Because the idea is we're cutting down borders here, and we don't want to create borders around sort of regulation and policy around this as well. It reminds me a little bit about some of the challenges that we've been facing around autonomous vehicles and sort of where liability lies if an accident does occur for autonomous vehicles as well. Some of these sort of really big concepts that we need to, our policymakers need to be discussing with the industry and with consumers as well. Thank you for sharing, KS. Chris, from your perspective, what are you seeing as those sort of major barriers that we might need to overcome? Is it around sort of infrastructure barriers? Is it just general acceptance of the metaverse? Keen to get your view, Chris.
Thank you, Charles. It's really my pleasure to be here to discuss with you. And actually, I agree with what just Monica and KS just said. But I'll try to elaborate this question from the perspectives of users. And if we want to adopt to make people to use metaverse, first of all, we have to make them understand or to know what metaverse is. And even when they know what metaverse is, we have to make them accept those applications in metaverse. And I try to have different group of people. For the first one, I think that's the young generation. And I think that's not too difficult for them to imagine what metaverse is. And because they use the internet services since they were born, for those young generation. But for elderly generation, for the people maybe probably like me or like my mother, I think the concept of metaverse is not easy for them to imagine. For them, probably they just think a metaverse is just for young kids to play game on the internet. So, and also they will think that gaming is just for young people. And actually, they think the device and the service in the metaverse might be too difficult for them to use. So I think the entry barriers or the difficulties that the metaverse may face in the future from the hardware side, you will see that the user interface is very critical for the adoption for the average people. And they must be easy to use, and it must be the low cost. And actually, they have to use that they feel comfortable when they use the hardware like the VR glasses or VR goggles. And as you may all know that at the current stage, when you wear the VR goggle for maybe more than 15 minutes or 30 minutes, you will feel dizzy. So we have to find a way to solve those kind of problems. And from the software and content side, also we have to make a lot of fun contents for them to use. And for the service side, actually we have to bridge those different services in the metaverse and try to make them connected. So I think there's still a lot of things to do in the future.
Yeah, you mentioned one of those barriers, just people knowing what it's for and what it can do is one of those big sort of challenges. And I do wonder if the pathway will be similar to some of the old previous technologies, like a PC, for example, where many people may have experienced it within an enterprise environment first. They might have got a laptop from work and then they use it there and they understand, okay, this is what it does. This is where the value is. And then they, invest and buy one at home and then use it there. And then obviously the use case for it sort of expands into their social world as well. I wonder if that is going to be a similar sort of pathway we might see for the metaverse, given sort of the cost of sort of the hardware at the moment. That would give people the opportunity to sort of see what it could be used for. And I think maybe the pandemic and work from home will enable that, because it does create a sort of an enterprise business case for the interconnected world, for the metaverse as well. Monica, just want to touch on a point around hardware, which Chris mentioned earlier, being one of those challenges. Just from your point of view, do you think the hardware industry is ready to meet the needs of metaverse? Are we sort of gearing up in a good enough way? Are we in a good position to do that? Maybe not now, but you talked about sort of 5 to 10 years. But how are we positioned?
Yeah, I think in terms of the overall industry, we are seeing accelerated advancement of hardware. There's no question about it. And just looking at the next generation of Wi-Fi 6E devices alone, the Wi-Fi Alliance has reported that they reached 500 Wi-Fi 6E product certifications just 7 months after the certification program was launched. And this is half the time that it took to certify 500 products for previous Wi-Fi generations. So it's really, it's quite remarkable. This also means that there are already wearables, laptops, smartphones, and access points on the market with the capability to deliver immersive and enhanced presence content for enterprises and for consumers. So, while the technology foundation for the metaverse is here, there are so many new tools and technologies that still need to be created to fulfill the promise of the metaverse. And of course, as we said before, these are not things that one company can do alone, but we need new processors and semiconductors, solutions for cloud computing, cloud storage and connectivity, glasses and optical technologies that'll let you see in the metaverse, and haptics that will let you feel. So VR is only the first step into the metaverse, but in the future, augmented reality glasses have the potential to radically change our lives on a daily basis, significantly disrupting the consumer and business technology landscape. Is it okay if I make one more quick point? Tangential to this, having led accessibility at the FCC when I was there, I'm really excited about the potential that the metaverse has for people with disabilities. We are part of, lots of people who are building something that billions can benefit from, and the accessibility possibilities are really, really profound. We designed the Quest 2 to be as accessible as possible for as many people as possible with a competitive price point, and as a standalone device that doesn't require an external device for computing. And we've been excited by how many people have found joy in using our devices to access new experiences in VR. And so we're really excited to see where these technologies can go. But anyway, I didn't want to stop discussing hardware without mentioning that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, I can really see sort of the mobility challenges, the benefits it could reap them amongst other people. Chris, Monica was painting this sort of picture of a sort of a really vibrant ecosystem, which is sort of developing around sort of addressing that hardware software challenge that we need to overcome. Would you agree, Chris? Is it looking pretty vibrant from your seat?
Yeah, definitely. I think I totally agree with Monica that we still have a lot of hardware technology and the software technology to be overcome in the future. And for example, from the hardware technology, Monica just mentioned the optical technology, display technologies, and also at the same time, we think that the computing technologies, we will have more computing powers to fulfill the need of metaverse applications for metaverse in the future. And also, we have to manage the power consumption of those devices, and probably they were contributed by the design and the semiconductor industries. And at the same time, I want to mention that the sensing technologies is very important. When you use the metaverse applications, you not only want to hear the sound, to see the pictures, but you also want to touch something there. You want to smell, you want to feel the motion of other people's, and you have to do some eye tracking, sensing technology, etc. So there were a lot of technologies to be developed, to be enhanced. And also just mentioned that like 5G, 6G telecommunication technologies should be enhanced to meet the need of metaverse. And also, if we take a software side, you can see that we still apply a lot of artificial intelligence technologies there. And also we will use blockchain and to do a lot of transaction in the metaverse. And also we have to develop those digital content for the metaverse because people want to enjoy in the metaverse applications, they need the digital content. And at the same time, something very important that we found is the cybersecurity, not just the safety issue, but also the cybersecurity. You want to stop the people who want to hack into the platform, hack into your service or your personal account. So I think there will be a lot of things to do, a lot of technology difficulties to be overcome in the future.
Yeah, Chris, you called out sort of 5G and even 6G as being infrastructure required to enable these virtual worlds, which does sort of give the audience an indication of the timeline we're looking for here. 5G has only been implemented in sort of a number of urban places around the world. We've got a long way to getting sort of mass adoption of that. And 6G, I don't even know what the time horizon is for that one. We've got some questions for the audience, which I'm going to go through during our discussion. And actually, there's one here which is super relevant for what we're talking about now. And the question is, realistically, how far away are we from implementing a lighter, more user-friendly console that is accessible to all? So that if I'm talking to people about the sort of the hardware related to the metaverse, a couple of things get called out. One is the cost. The second one is the weight of it. And so this sort of question goes to that one. I'm happy to open this up to sort of Monica, Chris, on this one, whether you can sort of give us a view on sort of how far away we think we are. You indicated earlier, Monica, it might be some period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I presume by console, you mean the head-mounted device that'll be used to access the metaverse. So, you know, as I mentioned before, we have the Quest 2 that's accessible to many with a competitive price point as a standalone device that doesn't require an external device for computing. But you know, like the internet, which can't be built by one company alone, the same applies to hardware enabling the metaverse. And you know, we work with the global network of suppliers, manufacturers, logistics operators, importers, exporters, retailers, and more, and all along the supply chain to bring devices to the market. And so we will have a variety of devices at various price points for consumers to choose from. It's difficult to put a timeline, but as soon as we have an economy of scale and the number of manufacturers involved increase, the hardware will become more, more affordable, more accessible, and more available.
Yeah, I think thinking back from history, it was probably about 10 years from, I was talking to a colleague earlier about this, about the brick mobile phone, the Motorola brick. I think people referred to it was sort of, I don't know, around 1997 or something like that, could have been earlier. And then, 2007, first version of the iPhone coming out. So it's sort of a period of time to get through to that. I just want to shift gear a little bit. We're about halfway through our discussion here today, just towards the policy side of things, KS, and to get your view on this. It's so critical that if we're in the dial-up stage of this, it is so critical that we get the policy frameworks, the regulatory framework in place to enable all of this to be possible. And I wonder, from your point of view, what should we be putting in place, or do we already have things in place to help us enable that policy environment to help get the benefits out of the metaverse? For example, are we seeing governments work together to sort of harmonise discussions around this? Do we have industry bodies sufficient enough to sort of help with this collaboration around policy to make it uniform and encouraging? Just, KS, generally keen to get your view on that sort of that ecosystem around policy that we're in at the moment.
Well, I must say we are at a developer stage on that international policy cooperation side as well. Just to illustrate that, South Korean government created Metaverse Alliance, supposed to be a multi-stakeholder forum for developing Metaverse. And one of the most interesting areas of Metaverse now is game industry, where people are not only experiencing experiencing a lot of things, but also they are making economic opportunities virtually, like play to earn games. But and in global game industry, Korean companies are one of the big players, but they are not part of the Metaverse Alliance created by the South Korean government. The reason is that Korea still has this law that prohibits conversion into money of game points, game items, and game cash, which basically makes it legally impossible to run play to earn games, because the game points raised from playing those games are turned into NFT coins, and that's how the economic opportunities are created for the users. That's not happening, and this kind of law is kind of working as a barrier between the resource of Korean game companies and the opportunities that are reachable within metaverse. Now, the challenge will become harder to handle as technology progresses, because as the sensor technology becomes more real, there will be more push from the policymakers to treat activities or regulate activities online at par with offline real activities. And that's why I think we need to push, we need to move forward in our understanding of what activities are regulable at par with offline and what not. For instance, hate speech and copyright law. These are regulations that are built to regulate speech from the beginning. And interactions in metaverse are actually speech, are actually communications. So those regulations may be transportable into the metaverse. But other activities like sexual crimes as such, they are not really transposable into metaverse easily. However, if the sensor technologies are advanced, there will be a push to equalize regulation offline and online. I think here the role of the game companies is really important, because in games, you see people being killed, buildings destroyed, but we don't consider those things as crimes or any reason for government intervention, because the game industries build context for those online activities, and how the context is built is very. The game companies are the ones that have the first access to the construction of the context for these activities, so that what seems to be violent activities on metaverse do not have real life importance or real life psychological shock or etc. So self-regulation is important, where game companies and other metaverse companies get together.
That's a really important point there, KS. The importance of industry to give context and sort of rationale around these things. And Chris, I wonder from your perspective, we have seen some of this, of course, around the regulation of data on current platforms on the internet, through some of the social media platforms. We've seen industries who've had to take a lead on this in terms of explanation around use of data and what's it for and using it, etc. Do you think some of that experience, those learnings, has put us in a good position to deal with the metaverse where we are now, Chris?
Yeah. At first, I want to make some point about the government's role in the promotion of metaverse. Yeah, because maybe you know that in Taiwan, we just set up a new ministry called the Ministry of Digital Affairs. The first minister is Andrew Tong, and probably some people know a lot about her. And in Taiwan, we are not just do the regulation for the in the metaverse scenarios, but also we want to promote the industry. So we have this kind of new ministry and try to make people, make the companies, government agencies, and the research institutes, and the people, the public people, to have conversation regarding those promotion of metaverse. And also, the government wants to do something for the demonstration. They want to apply the metaverse technologies on the public services. And for example, the local government called the Taipei City government, and they just invite a lot of companies, for example, like Meta, Cisco, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Foxconn, etc., to co-work on the metaverse application in Taipei City. So we want to use those technologies on the public services and the tourism in Taipei. So even they have already published a white paper for the applications of metaverse. And regarding the questions Charles just mentioned, during the use of metaverse, people get inside have a lot of activities. Yes, we will have a lot of data generated by the applications, by the use of metaverse, and we have to collect the data with within the regulations, and then we have to, if we can use the data correctly, probably we will have more applications, more emerging applications in the future by metaverse. So we think if we have to take care of the data governance issue in metaverse.
Thank you, Chris. To your point you just made a moment ago around using the metaverse for public services, I think that sounds like a really interesting application, and really would sort of address some of those accessibility challenges we might have around access to public services as well. It does raise a question. I've got a question here from the audience that I want to pose to you on this one. It's, will the public sector provide infrastructure for the metaverse as it did for the advent of the internet? Because if you're providing public services through the metaverse, then there's a strong onus on the government, on the public sector, to be able to sort of enable that. Is that a direction you think we're going?
Yes. Yes. Not only actually, in Taiwan, in our experience from the internet era, yes, we built up a lot of infrastructure to promote the industry, and not only the infrastructure, but the applications, as I just mentioned, related to the public services like smart cities, tourism, etc. So from my point of view, our government is willing to get involved in the development and the promotion of the metaverse.
Okay, good to hear. Yeah, sorry, Monica, you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, well, so I think KS and Chris made really interesting points about the role that government can play in terms of governance and applications and in that area as well, in addition to perhaps providing infrastructure. But I really think, governments and policymakers can also play a really powerful role through enabling forward-looking policies to encourage growth and investment in the metaverse, just at a more foundational level. So, for example, investing in R&D, in research and development and immersive computing, advanced manufacturing, new optics and materials, it can all accelerate product development and access to affordable technology. They can provide targeted manufacturing incentives, remove trade barriers impacting AR, VR, XR devices and components, supporting STEM education to ensure the workforce of the future will supercharge investments in this space and reduce costs that could translate to more accessible pricing downstream. So it's really like I think governments that can be very, very powerful in supercharging the metaverse altogether. I mean, including in other ways related to connectivity, like improving access to international data bandwidth capacity, bringing content closer to users through better edge networks and incentivizing those, ensuring people can access their content in an affordable manner through a mix of technologies, including satellite, next generation Wi-Fi, mobile connectivity technologies. So there are just lots of foundational ways that the government and governments can support.
Yeah, I think that sort of it speaks to us being in the dial-up phase of this, doesn't it? That there's a lot of things on the to-do list, basically, for both the government and also industry to sort of tick off for us to be able to get to where we want to be with this. We've got just over 5 minutes left. I just want to shift slightly to sort of the question of interoperability, which is something which comes up quite often when we're talking about virtual worlds. And maybe Monica, I can go to you on this one. Maybe firstly, just describe to the audience what do we mean by interoperability, and so what role would it play in the metaverse?
Sure. I mean, I think we believe that the success of the metaverse depends on building robust interoperability across services. And what we mean by that is for different companies' experiences to be able to work together. So giving, which gives more choice to people, encourages competition. People should be able to, for example, bring their avatars and digital items across different apps and experiences in the metaverse without feeling locked into one world or one platform. So that's what we mean by that.
And it sounds like a really important sort of seamless thing that we need. And I guess the way to get there is obviously through coordination, collaboration, through industry. We're seeing a little bit of that for those that follow the metaverse some discussion. We saw an interesting collaboration between Meta and Microsoft come in recently.
Yeah. Just that Connect 2020. I'm glad you brought that up. But just very recently at Connect 2022, Microsoft Chairman and CEO Satya Nadella joined Mark Zuckerberg to announce a partnership that will bring powerful new work and productivity tools to MetaQuest Pro and MetaQuest 2 next year, including apps for Microsoft Windows 365 and Microsoft Teams, and the ability to join a Microsoft Teams meeting from inside the Meta Horizons workrooms. So it's, those types of collaborations are important, and that type of interoperability will be important to the success of the metaverse.
Yeah, certainly hope we see some more of those developing. And I just wonder in terms of things like protocols, and maybe Chris or KS can get your view on this one. And this is a question from the audience, actually. Are there any protocols that companies are adopting or looking to make as standards towards interoperability? So are we seeing some sort of agreement on protocols from various different industry players out there? Or is that something still sort of into the future? Happy to open that one up to anybody if you have a view on that. It's okay if we don't. We can sort of follow up with that one offline. It is sort of symptomatic of sort of how early we are. Monica, did you?
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, so there are several forums that are working on standards. There's the XR Association. There's a Metaverse Standards Forum as well. There's the World Economic Forum is also working, I think, with companies to develop additional interoperability standards. So there are several. The XR Association is really interesting in that it brings together companies working across the whole spectrum of metaverse technologies, from headset manufacturers to technology platforms to companies that build components, internet infrastructure, enterprise solutions, and it's working together to collaborate on this. The Metaverse Standards Forum is also a leading worldwide industry forum focused on interoperability standards.
Excellent.
Just for people to be aware of in this area, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really positive. Thank you for sharing, Monica. We've only got a couple of minutes left, and I might just wanted to go around each of you very quickly, just to get your final views. And this is a question which has come from the audience as well, in terms of where do you see the greatest value coming from the metaverse. Just in a couple of words or a quick sentence from each of you, keen to see where you see the greatest value in the metaverse. Maybe I'll start with you quickly, Monica.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's the metaverse can create immense economic opportunities and values for different sectors in different countries. For example, there's Korean K-pop groups that connect with their fans through the metaverse. Singapore makes use of VR to train their physicians. Indonesia is making use of the metaverse to promote tourism. So I think we're excited about the value that it can create in many different sectors across education, commerce, medical training, urban planning, tourism, entertainment, just to scratch the surface. So I think countries and people can choose their own priority areas where they see the most value according to their local situations. But the possibilities are really limitless.
Yeah, it does sound like the value really sits within those possibilities for any sort of entrepreneurs out there, firms looking to experiment and try. There's a huge amount of value there.
Absolutely.
Quickly on.
I also agree that it can create opportunities for people who don't have those opportunities in the real life. Which is what happened with the internet as well. People who didn't have economic resources to reach a lot of people now could do that through the internet. And I think metaverse also can do that. Even in economic opportunities, NFT can be adapted into metaverse where scarcity is artificially created, where you can actually own things in the virtual world. That's one way economic opportunities can create it, and new economic hierarchies or lack of hierarchies can be constructed in the metaverse. The same freedom and opportunity that internet has presented, I think, will be possible in the metaverse at a different level. I think we need more support from the government and industry. Just to, as you are ending, one infrastructure that has to be available for metaverse to be possible is the internet, people's access to the internet. Now, I mean, I keep coming back to the South Korean example, but we have instituted this standing party network pays rule, where people are charged for use of the internet, and that has really crippled the content industry in Korea. And similar proposal is being discussed at the European Commission, and that's very, very disconcerting, very, very disturbing, not only for the future of the metaverse, but even for the future of the ordinary internet.
That's a really good point there, KS. Thank you. Chris, just super quickly, because we are out of time, just love to hear your quick words on the value.
Okay, the greatest value in the metaverse, I think, is not only the connection of devices, but also the connection of people there. And we can have more creativities to be fulfilled in the virtual world made by metaverse. So that's my point of view. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. Been a really fascinating discussion. I've really enjoyed it. It's nice to have these discussions when we are still at that dial-up stage of a new innovation, of a new technology, and be able to sort of get into the weeds of what needs to be put down now for us to sort of have success in the next 5 or 10 years. Lots to do. I think the policy angle is a really sort of challenging one that we need to, in the way we think about the sort of the offline environment and the online environment, is something that policymakers really need to grapple with and work with industry and the public to sort of get on top of the right approach for that one. Huge amount of value we've just discussed here right at the very end in terms of the metaverse as well. So lots of hard work to do, I think, from everybody, all the stakeholders, but actually quite a lot at stake in terms of the value we could could capture from this. So thank you very much for to each of my panelists, to Monica, to KS, to Chris. Really appreciated your insights and your comments. It's been really fascinating. Once again, a big thank you to Meta for sponsoring this event and making it all possible. It's been a really good discussion. And again, thank you to our audience out there for taking the time to listen to this. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope we've given you something to think about as you go on with the rest of your days. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to everybody, and goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.